Hello, welcome back to the Breaking News Update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got a breaking news report coming out from Russia to share with all of you. We're going to talk about Russia's war machine in this video and their economy, and I have a new report to show you that could possibly indicate that we're seeing more cracks within the Russian economy, and they're having a difficult time just funding this war. Take a look at your screen here. Russia begins cutting payments to soldiers fighting inside Ukraine. From April 15th, payments in Yamal are slashed by 40%. Signing a contract with the Ministry of Defense now pays 1.9 million rubles instead of 3.1 million rubles due to influx of people from other regions flooding in. Okay, so Yamalo-Nenets, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, it's a region up in northern Russia, kind of like central northern Russia. And apparently they were paying 3.1 million rubles just prior to yesterday, and all of a sudden they have now slashed payments down to 1.9 million for any soldiers that sign up to go fight inside of Ukraine. Now, we are understanding that it was due to an influx of other people from other regions flooding into Yamalo-Nenets and trying to sign up, probably trying to take advantage of higher pay in that area. But all of a sudden now they're running out of money and they can't even afford to pay the original payout of 3.1 million rubles, now having to slash that down 40% to 1.9 million. So could this possibly indicate how tight Russia's budget is right now to continue fighting this war? I mean, just not too long ago, we had reports like this. You can see here, July 23rd, 2024, just the middle of last year. And this was from Roman Sheremetyev. Putin is running out of soldiers to incentivize new cannon fodder. Russia has increased the compensation for new recruits to 1.9 million rubles. That's almost 1,000% increase compared to what was offered 2 years ago. The evidence is mounting. Okay, so we were hearing lots of reports just like this last year, especially leading into the late of last year in 2024, that Russia was starting to increase their payments to their soldiers. Well, now we're starting to see cracks like in Yamalo-Nenets, where now they can't even afford to pay many of the soldiers. And if they're having to slash 40%, that shows just how tight their budget is, at least in that one region. Now, so far, this is the only region in Russia that we have been hearing that is starting to slash budgets for this war. And could this possibly indicate that also the war in Ukraine is becoming less profitable for the Russian military? So now we're going to jump on over to an update that I have for you guys on a mainstream news article that talks about this. We'll go a little bit more in depth and talk about what's going on with the Russian economy. So from the Kiev Independent, this is coming out today, April 15th, 2025, and it says Russia's Yamalo-Nenets region becomes first to reduce military enlistment payments. Okay, and it says down here, the Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous Okrug, if I'm saying that right, has become the first Russian region to reduce enlistment payments for soldiers fighting in Ukraine, the Moscow Times reported on April 15th, citing local officials. Throughout the 3 years of Russia's full-scale invasion, regional authorities in Russia have significantly increased recruitment bonuses to encourage new troops to join the military amid heavy losses on the battlefield in Ukraine. In Yamalo-Nenets, payments have now reverted to earlier levels. Instead of previously offered 3.1 million rubles, or about $37,700, new recruits will now receive 1.9 million rubles, or roughly $23,100. The higher payment had been in effect from January 20th through April 15th. And it says here also the highest bonus in Russia is still offered in Samara Oblast, where officers and those renewing contracts with the Russian Defense Ministry can receive 3.6 million rubles or $43,800. At the start of 2025, 6 regions, including Chuvashia, if I'm saying that correctly, Mariel, Bashkortostan, Smolensk, and Kaluga Oblast and Primorsky Krai increased their payments. Kaluga Oblast saw the steepest jump from 800,000 to 2 million rubles, about $9,700 to $24,300. Okay, so you can see we've been seeing a lot of increases in payments recently, but now our very first region inside of Russia now starting to decrease that. As of late March, the Russian government was spending about 2 billion rubles or $24.3 million per day on enlistment bonuses. According to the Russian Finance Ministry, Roughly three quarters of that, 1.5 billion rubles or 18.2 million, is paid by regional governments, which are spending nearly 3% of their budgets on recruitment efforts. The remaining 500 million rubles or $6 million comes from the federal government. Earlier, President Vladimir Putin approved a reduction in compensation for soldiers wounded in the war against Ukraine. In October, Russian forces suffered their deadliest month since the invasion began. British Defense Intelligence reported that Russian casualties in Ukraine totaled 41,980 killed or wounded that month, according to the UK Defense Minister John Healey. Despite record losses, Russian troops have been making increasingly rapid gains along the front line. Okay, so yes, we know that the Russians have been incurring heavy losses along the front line, but this is definitely an interesting story coming out talking about the fact that some regions, at least this one region in Russia, are now having to decrease payments. As I did show you guys a report that came out today, I showed you this morning with our update video for the Russia-Ukraine war. This from Max 24. Against the backdrop of news about the end of the war in Moscow, the number of people wishing to sign a contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense has increased in order to jump on the last train and receive payments. Okay, so I could imagine a lot of people thinking in Russia, hey, maybe the war is going to come to an end. Let's try to get into the military now and get this money, secure these contract deals, and get this money from the government before the war comes to an end, and that way they'll still get paid. So we're seeing an increase, we can see on this chart from April 10th, a lot of people trying to jump into the military, especially over the last month or so, and trying to take advantage of these payments before probably a lot of these payments start to get heavily slashed throughout all these territories if this, or regions, excuse me, if this war ends up coming to an end. Okay, so clearly it looks like some regions like the Yamalo-Nenets region in Russia now starting to feel the burn of all these people trying to flood into the military and join in their region. Now they can't even afford to pay out these soldiers for their payments. So very big news coming out, and I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot more of this over the coming months, because the fact that so many soldiers or just men are trying to join into the military right now and take advantage of the incentives while they're there, we're probably going to start to see a lot of slashing of payments as time goes on, especially if we start to hear more positive results coming from the Russian side that they're ready to end this war. But I think right now it's really hard to tell, because it doesn't look like Vladimir Putin wants to end this war at this time. But you guys let me know what you think about all these details. Do you think we're going to start to see a trend of this happening inside of Russia, or they're going to start slashing payments all over in multiple regions? Or do you think this is a one-time event because so many people are flocking to one area of Russia, maybe to try to take advantage of higher payments versus maybe where they're living previously, okay? So let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.